Good morning. Some final points with regards to Erev Pesach falling on Shabbat this year, and especially with regards to timings and preparation. But let's just lay out some basic points. Firstly, it's permissible for a person to work the entire Friday. Normally on Erev Pesach, there are restrictions with regards to working, especially after midday. But this year, because Friday is 13th of Nisan, a person is halachically allowed to work on the 13th. Of course, taking into account the regular points with regards to working close to Shabbat. Secondly, an interesting halakha is with regards to the matzah, which a person has set aside, the shmura matzah, a person set aside for the use in the Seder night. So, as we have learned, a person is allowed to eat matzah on the night of Friday night, but on Shabbat, one is not allowed to. And so regular matzah is permissible for a person to move on Shabbat. Also, even during the day for children, you can feed them matzah. It's absolutely fine for children who aren't the age of chinuch to give them matzah to eat. But the shmura matzah, the matzah which a person has set aside, if they have specific matzah for the Pesach night, then that matzah is actually muktzeh, because it has no purpose, because it can't be used and it won't be used on the day before. And so if a person has Shmura Matzah all 7 days of Pesach, all Matzah is the same, so this halacha won't be relevant. A person who has specific Matzah for the Seder night, then that Matzah is actually muktzeh over Shabbat and should not be moved around. Point 3. When is the correct time to pray Arvit after Shabbat, before Pesach, for Pesach, this year, considering it falls on Saturday night? So, of course, the best would be to pray at Seder Kochavim at nightfall, and like that, one says in Arvit Vatodienu, the Havdalah, and that's the best, because then you're finishing Shabbat and going straight into Pesach. However, practically speaking, in England, in London, and other places, it's quite difficult, especially when it falls this late in April. And so, really, if one's only going to pray Arvit when Shabbat comes out, that's after 8:40. And so till you finish Arvit, till you get home, till you start the Seder, you're looking at close to 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so based on this, there is a leniency for a person to pray Arvit even earlier, even from Shkia, from sunset, which in London is about 10 minutes to 8. And one can still say Vatodienu, one can still say the Havdalah in the Arvit. This is a halakha in Hilchot Shabbat, that a person can already pray Arvit even before Shabbat has completed, when there is a need to do so. And because of the lateness of this, there is a leniency that if necessary, Kehilot can pray Arvit before sunset, that people can get home and begin the Seder at nightfall at 8:40, rather than having to wait and get home, etc., and then being delayed an extra hour. With regards to preparation, so of course, one's not have to prepare from Shabbat to the next day, even from Shabbat to Chag. And so therefore one can't set the Seder table and all the things on Shabbat afternoon in preparation for the Seder in the night. So really what needs to happen is that as soon as one gets home, they set the table at nightfall, 8:40 in London, and then from then begin the Seder once they've set the table. There is a leniency here as well, that one can start to set the table, not to do melacha, chas v'shalom. One cannot do any kind of work which is forbidden to do, so one can't get the candles ready, but one can prepare the table in all things which are not muktzeh, and all things which are just setting out the table. And the reason for this is because we have a principle, shvut l'tzorich mitzvah is mutar. You're allowed to, a different principle, that shvut ben hashmashot l'tzorich mitzvah is mutar, to do a rabbinic, something forbidden by the hachamim, during the time of after sunset, before nightfall, and there's a mitzvah involved, is permissible. And here, the prohibition of preparing from Shabbat to the weekday is rabbinic in nature. It's being done after Shkia, so it's being done during Ben Hashmashot, and it's for mitzvah in a situation where there are too many people. As one's got lots of guests and very young kids, and till you set the table for everyone, it's going to be very late. So then already one can begin to prepare and set the table from sunset. In London, I think that's 7:52 this year. So that would mean that one can start preparing. But of course, I have to reiterate that this is only preparing things which don't involve muktzeh. One cannot do an active melacha until Shabbat is finished. obviously. So one can't candles and one can't touch. But setting the table out, putting the plates out, the cutlery out, all of that, if there is a need and there is a mitzvah involved, the person can already begin to prepare that from after sunset. And finally, if one needs to start the Seder early for whatever reason, it's beyond the scope of this, but one should consult with regards to a person who needs to start the Seder even before nightfall, and the different points involved with that. And these are the main points. Of course, there are many other points, but these are the main points. To summarize, work is permissible on Friday. One should not move matzah, which has been designated for the Seder night. That's mukteh. One can pray if there is a need, pray Arvit after sunset, and also one can prepare the table for Pesah after sunset if there is a need to do so. There are lots of people. Have a lovely day.